over here, and welcome back to the reading stream for Loveless by Alice Oseman. In the last part, we finished the second half of part 3 of the book, and now to catch you guys up to speed, um, long story short, the Bailey Ball has come up. Well, I should start with the fact that even all that's going on, Jason has decided to stick with the Shakespeare Society that's going on right now. Um, excuse me. Even after what's happened between him and Georgia, and then we go to the Bailey Ball, and Georgia and Rooney, after a night of having good times at the party, decide to do something that even I have found really, really, really stupid of them to have done. Period. Even though they're drunk, that don't mean nothing. That doesn't excuse their behavior. They should have known better than to do this, but whatever. Um, but yeah, they do something that just instantly pisses Pip off. And now it is up in the air what's going to happen. I do have a good stopping point for the first half of part 4. You'll know why when we get to the stopping point. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and go right along with reading the first half of part 4. So without further ado, I bumped the camera stand, but whatever. I'm just going to go ahead and take my glasses off. It's kind of where I can't really see the words very well with my glasses. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes it doesn't. It is what it is. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Part 4. Very opposite people. The next morning after the Bailey Ball, Rudy came back to our room at nearly midday. I'd still been asleep, but she kicked the door open so hard that it slammed against the wall. Then said something about having slept at some guy's place before kicking off her shoes, pulling her dress over her head, and standing in the center of the room, staring at Roderick the houseplant, who was basically close to death. And then she got into bed. She didn't say anything about what had happened with me or with Pip. I didn't want to talk to her either, so as soon as I was up and dressed, I went to the library. I walked right up to the top floor where there were tables tucked behind long cases of books on finance and business. Let me fix this, sorry. Yeah, this is all kind of messed up. Alright, there we go. There we go, that's a lot better. Anyway, I went to the library. I walked right up to the top floor where there were tables tucked behind long cases of books on finance and business. I stayed there until dinner time, finishing one of this term's assignments, not thinking about anything that had happened. I was definitely not thinking about anything that had happened. When I got back, Rudy awoke just in time for dinner in the college cafeteria. We walked down there together, saying nothing, and we ate together, sitting next to a group of students I recognized as Rudy's acquaintances, but she still said nothing. When we got back to our room, she changed into her pajamas, got right back into bed, and fell asleep again. I stayed awake, staring at Pip's jacket in the corner of the room, the one she'd left here during Freshers' Week, the one I'd kept forgetting to give back to her. When I woke up in our room on Sunday, I felt disgusting, realized I hadn't showered since before the Bailey Ball. So I showered. I got dressed in a fresh t-shirt and a warm cardigan, and I exited the room, leaving Rooney alone in bed, only her ponytail poking out of the top of her duvet. I went to the library again with the intention of getting another essay done. My first assignments of my university life were all due next week before the winter holidays, and I still had a lot to do. But once I'd swiped into the library with my campus card and found a vacant table, I just sat there with my laptop, staring at my old message threads with Pip and Jason. I drafted a separate message to each of them. It took 2 hours. To Jason, I sent, Georgia War. I'm so sorry for everything. I didn't properly think about how this would affect you. I was only thinking about myself. You are one of the most important people in my life, and I took advantage of that without thinking. You deserve someone who worships you. I honestly wish that I did feel that way, but I can't. I literally am not attracted to anyone, no matter their gender. I've tried really hard to be, but I'm just not, so I'm just not. I'm so sorry for everything. To Pip I sent, Georgia War. Hey, I know you're not talking to me and I understand why, but I just want you to know the facts. Rudy kissed me because I've been very confused about my sexuality, and she wanted to help me see if I liked girls. This was a very dumb thing for both of us to do. It doesn't help me in any way whatsoever. It didn't help me in any way whatsoever. Wasn't really what I wanted to do at all, and we are both drunk. We're really not into each other and both seriously regret it. So I'm really sorry. Both of them read the messages within the hour. Neither of them responded. Hey, Daniel Barry, happy Friday to you. Hope you're doing well. Despite us living literally in the same bedroom, the first proper conversation I had with Rudy after the events of the Bailey Ball came on the Monday before the end of term in an introduction to drama lecture. I was sitting alone near the back, which was my usual spot, but she appeared in my peripheral vision and sat down next to me. She was in her day look, leggings, a St. John's polo shirt, hair in a ponytail, but her eyes were wild as she stared at me and waited for me to say something. I didn't want to talk to her. I was annoyed at her. I knew that what had happened was my fault as well as hers, but I was angry at how she'd reacted when I tried to explain my feelings. She hadn't even tried to understand. Hello, I said flatly. Hi, she said back. I need to talk to you. I don't really want to talk to you, I said. I know. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to. But then neither of us could, because we were both interrupted by the professor starting her lecture on Pinter's The Birthday Party. Instead of leaving the issue, Rudy withdrew her iPad from her bag, opened up a notes app, and laid it on the table in front of us, close enough to me that I could see the screen. She started tapping, and I assumed she was just taking notes on the lecture, but then she stopped and pushed the screen towards me. Excuse me. I'm so sorry about what happened at the Bailey Ball. It was entirely my fault, and I was a fucking dick to you when you were trying to tell me something important. Oh, okay. That was unexpected. I looked at Rooney. She raised her eyebrows and nodded at the iPad, gesturing for me to respond. What was I supposed to say? I cautiously raised my hands and began to type. Okay. Rooney paused, then tapped furiously at the keyboard. I know we were drunk, but that's literally not an excuse for the way I acted. You know when straight guys find out that a girl is gay and they're all like, haha, but you haven't kissed me, so how do you know you're gay? That is basically what I did to you. This whole time, I've been pestering you about finding a relationship and kissing people and getting out there. I kept telling you to try with Jason, and when you tried to tell me you didn't actually want any of that, I didn't even listen. And that I thought kissing would be a good idea, because I always think kissing just solves everything. You've been figuring out your sexuality for months, and I did everything wrong. Everything. I had so many ideas about how people should feel about romance and sex and all that, but it's all just bullshit, and I'm so sorry. I'm literally so dumb, and I'm an asshole. I want you to tell me I'm an asshole. I raised an eyebrow and then typed, "Okay, you're an asshole." Rudy actually grinned at this. R. Thank you. G. No problem. I hadn't even expected her to apologize, let alone understand why what she'd done had been bad. But she had. I decided to be bold and type out, "So as it turns out, I am a romantic asexual." Rudy gave me a look. It wasn't the whole "what the fuck is that" look that I expected. It was a curious look. Curious. A little concerned maybe, but not in a bad way. Just honestly wanted to know what's going on with me. Yeah, I was confused about it too, haha. It means I'm not attracted to anyone romantically or sexually, no matter their gender. Sort of been figuring that out lately. Rudy watched me type. Then she took a moment to think before she responded. R. Wow. I didn't even know that was a thing. I always assumed it was like, you like guys and girls or some sort of combo. G. Yeah, same. Hence all the confusion. R. It sounds really difficult to figure out. I'm proud of you. It was far from a perfect response to someone coming out, but it was so distinctly Rudy that it brought a smile to my face. Are you feeling okay? R. Are you feeling okay about it? G. To be honest, not really. But I think I will be. In time. Like, realizing and accepting that this is who I am is the first couple of steps, and I've done that now, I guess. Before typing a response back, Rudy simply put her head on my shoulder and rested it there for a few seconds, in lieu of a real hug, which would have been a bit difficult in the middle of a lecture. R. I guess I can't really relate, but I'm here for you. Like, if you ever want to rant about it or just talk things through. G. Really? R. Georgia. We are friends. G. O. R. I mean, we have kissed, sort of, platonically made out. G. I'm aware. R. Sorry about that. Again. Was it really horrible for you? G. I mean, it did feel a little bit disgusting to me. Or, it did feel a little bit disgusting, yes. G. R. Oh! G. No offense. R. No, I like it. You're definitely the anti-me. G. We are very opposite people, yes. R. Very refreshing. G. Love that for us. R. Tasty. G. Delicious content. R. 10 out of 10. We both started giggling and then we couldn't stop until the professor shushed us and we looked at each other grinning. Everything might not, everything might have been shit still. I'd heard my two best friends and I knew I had so far to go before I could even begin to like who I was. But at least I had Rudy sitting next to me, laughing instead of crying. Let me try this with the glasses again. Yeah. Hold on, let me, you know what, I'm actually gonna clean my glasses. Just give me a second. While you guys see the outside world of crickets and all that. Sometimes I wonder why I'm even doing this at night. You know, it makes you wonder. But I think it's because, at least at night, it's, with the exception of said outside world out there, it is a lot more quiet than it would be in the daytime when you got birds and things. You got birds and people that you can hear uh, inside and out, you know. So I think that's the reason why. Even though at night when you got the crickets out, it can be kind of distracting. But, you know, best not to let them get the better of you. Just do what you like to do and tell the crickets to go fuck themselves. No, I'm kidding, I'm kidding. Don't do that. Just ignore them and just ignore them and have fun with what you're doing. That's how it is. Alright, let's get back to the book. Aromantic asexual. The internet is a blessing and a curse. Tell me about it. Googling aromantic asexual unleashed a quantity of information I was not mentally or emotionally prepared for. The first time I searched it, I quickly exited the window and didn't search again for a whole day. My animalistic instinct was, this is stupid. This is fake. This is a made-up internet thing that is stupid and fake and absolutely not me. And yet, it was me. Sunil and Jess were not the only ones. There were thousands of people on the internet who identified this way, and were very happy to do so. In fact, people have been using the word asexual as a sexual identity since as far back as 1907, so it wasn't even an internet thing at all. Interesting. That's actually kind of interesting when you think about it. Sunil had explained it pretty concisely, to be fair. The internet informed me that asexual simply meant little to no sexual attraction, and aromantic meant little to no romantic attraction. On a more intense internet dive, I discovered there was actually a lot of debate over these definitions because people's experiences and feelings could be so vastly different, but at that point I decided to log the hell off again. It was too much, too confusing, too new. I wondered whether Sunil had ever felt like this about his own asexuality, and after I scrolled down his Instagram for a while, I found he had a blog. It was called Diary of a Cellist at Durham, and it had posts about all sorts of things. Studying music, Durham activities, his daily routine, his role in Pride Soch, and in the student orchestra. It also posted a few times about asexuality. One post stuck out to me where he'd written about how he'd initially found it difficult to accept his asexuality. Sexuality in general was very taboo in Indian culture, he'd explained, and when he looked for support he found that the asexual community, even online, was incredibly white. But after finding a group of Indian asexuals online, he'd started to feel proud of his identity. Sunil had no doubt been on a very different journey from me, and a lot of things that he dealt with, I would be shielded from due to being white and cis. But it was reassuring to know that he too had felt some anxiety about being asexual. People didn't always love who they were right away. I soon found the courage to continue Googling. It turned out that lots of asexual people still wanted to have sex for all sorts of different reasons, but some felt totally neutral about it, and others, what I'd originally thought, literally despised it. Some asexual people still masturbated, others didn't have libidos at all. It also turned out that lots of aromantic people still wanted to be in romantic relationships, despite not feeling those feels. Others didn't ever want a romantic partner. And people identified as all sorts of combinations of romantic and sexualities, and the I'm messing up my words. Hold on. And people identified as all sorts of combinations of romantic and sexual. There were gay asexuals like Sunil, or bisexual aromantics like Jess, or straight asexuals, pansexual aromantics, and loads more. Some asexual and aromantic people didn't even like splitting up their attraction into two labels, and some just used the word queer to summarize everything. There were words I had to Google like demisexual and gray romantic, but even after Googling, I wasn't sure exactly what they meant. The aromantic and asexual spectrums weren't just straight lines. They were radar charts with at least a dozen different axes. Hmm. Actually, you know what? Let's listen. Let's see what those are. Where's the it's right up here. Hold on. Let's see about what they are, actually, before we continue.
We live in a world where sex is a hot topic of discussion. It's glorified in advertisements, TV shows.
So, in case you guys are wondering what this is about. Okay, plane. Anyway, this is a video about demisexuality. Ironically, I also have a video in my suggestions from Anthony Padilla, talking to say, I spent a day with asexuals. But we're talking about demisexuality. So let's hear what what that is.
Shows, movies, and plays. Sex drives a lot of people. But what if it doesn't drive you? What if it's not the number one thing on your mind all the time? Does that make you weird? No. If you're someone who experiences sexual attraction only when you have a deep emotional connection with someone, then you may identify as demisexual.
Wait, what? Hold on, I want to hear that again because I kind of missed it.
No. If you're someone who experiences sexual attraction only when you have a deep emotional connection with someone, then you may identify as demisexual. You might be asking, wait, is demisexuality a sexual orientation? It is believed to be a subset and add-on to an individual's identity rather than being an individual's sexual orientation. Sexual orientation, as people see it, is which gender you are sexually attracted to or not. Demisexuality is a way of experiencing sexual attraction, it being about how you want to go about a relationship rather than who you would want to be in a relationship with. A demisexual can also identify as gay, straight, or bisexual, and may not have a gender preference when it comes to sexual attraction. Many argue that demisexuality isn't real or valid, that it's a made-up label for some to seek attention or feel like special snowflakes. Labels may not be absolute or necessary, but the term demisexual is a descriptive word for a certain pattern of attraction that gives demis more understanding of themselves, affirmation, and help them find a community with people who can relate. In 2012, Olivia Davis, a demisexual, wrote, "Demisexuality is about desire and arousal, not just sex and who you do it with. It's not merely that I'm only interested in having sex with people that I love, it's also that I feel a complete absence of desire or sexual feelings towards everyone else, ever. What makes me demisexual is that absence." This means when a demisexual experiences sexual attraction and desire, it is only towards the specific partner. Every demisexual's experiences is different. The emotional bond demisexuals need for sexual attraction also varies for everyone. It may include familiarity with the person and learning aspects of their personality. Forming an emotional bond with someone does not guarantee that sexual attraction will happen. It is simply a prerequisite for it to occur at all. Demisexuality is halfway between the asexual and sexual spectrum of human sexuality. Demisexuals are often mistaken as choosing to be that way, as opposed to it being their innate orientation. Demisexuality is not a pattern of behavior, but rather a distinct pattern of attraction. Demisexuals are not choosing to abstain from sex. They are often said to experience no primary attraction towards anyone, which means no attraction towards the immediate outer appearance and qualities of a person.
Mm.
People may find themselves to be sexually attracted to strangers, people they don't know well, or celebrities. But for demisexuals, they do not experience the initial sexual attraction. The difference between an asexual and a demisexual is that a demisexual experiences secondary attraction, which is mental and emotional, stemming from the establishment of a deeper connection. They may feel sexual attraction after getting to know someone on a deeper level and
Mm.
discovering that others value them for their intelligence, wit, heart, or any other attributes unrelated to looks. People who don't really understand demisexuality may label those who show little interest in sex as a prude or something similar like shy or someone afraid of intimacy. Just because someone isn't interested in sex with strangers does not make them abnormal or a prude. But at the same time,
Actually, that kind of ideology actually made that kind of sexuality actually made sense when you think about it, in a way. Because I wouldn't really see myself doing that sort of thing with a random person that I barely know, but more with someone that, that I could see that I could see spending the rest of my life with. I wouldn't, you know, so that's why I say it in a way because I'm not sure if it's uh because the part of me that makes me wonder about this is that is it to where uh you just have sexual preferences with people that on a deep level, like everybody, or a select group of people within that group of people that you know on a personal level. Well, obviously it's not everybody, but you know what I'm saying. I'm not talking about. I'm not talking like in the family type of situation. I'm talking like people outside of the family. When I ask the question, um, or is it where it's just like a select group of people in that circle? Because, like I said, obviously, I'm not talking about like every actual person because that would involve bringing family into it. But obviously, love for a family is very different than a love for a significant other. Because with a family, how they treat you, like how they treat, like how you feel about them on its own level depends on how they treat you. Whereas in its own way, having, like, uh, I'm trying to think about this before I say anything. Because I've already said something questionable on a separate stream, on a separate channel one time, and I don't want to do it again. Especially not here. And that's a true story, by the way. That did actually happen, but we're not gonna. But that's getting off topic. We're not talking about that. But if a few people were watching this, they probably will say something about it if they wanted to. Um, but anyway, my whole thing is, you know, like having love for your biological family as compared to like a significant other, like a person outside of the family that you have a deep connection with. Um, Obviously, those are two very separate uh, things. They are two very separate sides of the coin of love. Because a family, like I said, you were born with it. You were born into the family. You were raised by the family. But do you love your family? Some people will say yes. Some people will say no. And some people will be in the middle and say, Well, I love these family members, but not these other family members. Whereas with, as compared to being with someone, you know, uh, like compared to loving someone that outside of the family on a deep personal, on a deep level. As far as those people go, uh, have you know, that's the kind of question I'm having. Whereas, like, with demisexuals, do they feel that way toward the people outside the family that they have a deep bond with? Or is it like a small, or is it like a certain group of people? It honestly could be both for either or, honestly. Where some people probably feel that about everybody in that they feel a personal bond outside the family with. Or it could be like, well, I could see it, or is it like where they're selective with it? That's the kind of question that I'm having.
Others might mistake demisexuals as people who only have sex with those they love. Sexual attraction is not the same as sexual behavior. Demisexuals can choose to have sex with whomever they please, whether they love them or not. It doesn't make them
Hmm.
more or less
Okay, that
demisexual.
actually answers my
Many
question.
non-demisexuals choose to have sex with people they love, and that does not make them demisexual. Demisexuality refers to the underlying sexual attraction you feel, sexual feelings directed towards a person that you share an emotional bond with. Whether the demisexual decides to have sex with them or not has nothing to do with the definition of demisexuality. A lot of demisexuals get uncomfortable with the idea of flirting and may think it to be pointless.
Hmm.
Demisexuals can still choose to engage in premarital or casual sex, and many do, though it is trust, openness, and emotional connection that really gets demisexuals going. Demisexuals may not like the thought of flirting at a bar, getting someone's number, and then leaving with a stranger and being intimate with them. A
Right.
demisexual's idea of a fun night might instead be to spend time with friends, talking, dancing, and enjoying each other's company. Demisexuals may feel frustrated with people's tendency to overestimate their interest in them and feel annoyed that they cannot just talk to them normally without having others hit on them. Many demisexuals may choose to.
God forbid how many times I always hear about how, like, in a general sense, God knows how many times I go on Twitter and I see posts of people talking about how someone completely random just hits on them and they feel completely uncomfortable because of it because they don't know the person very well. So obviously they're not gonna be thinking positively about it. They're gonna be feeling a bit uncomfortable because they don't know the person, and so they don't know what motives, if any, they have for them to do this, to do that.
Avoid situations like big parties or club scenes for that reason. They might feel more comfortable in dating close friends, as casual dating doesn't appeal to them. And they may wonder how others have sex on the first date or have sex with someone they just met. Another common misconception of demisexuals.
Hell, anybody could have a question. Truth be told, anybody could have a question about that. How could you do that sort of thing with someone that you just met? Usually, you don't even like. Usually you're just doing a casual date, you know, for the first date. Because to me, a casual date would always be a good first date, even if people want to say otherwise. And I say it'd be a good first date because to me, the first date should be about getting to know the person. Like, like you could take them to like a Starbucks or or any other kind of coffee shop or cafe or whatever. Basically, somewhere where it's casual. It's not too expensive, but not like fucking fast food restaurant kind of deal. Unless you both agree to a fast food place. Which case, hey, that's up to you guys. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna judge. I don't judge people based on where they prefer to have their first date to be at. But my point is, um, but my point is, I don't really see why. I honestly do not see why people would want to do that sort of thing. You know what I'm talking about when I say. You probably know what I'm talking about when I say that. But doing that sort of thing after the first date, I would expect it sometime after you decided to be boyfriend girl, be together. Um, However long that may be, but after the first date, I don't really see why anybody would want to do that. Well, like I said, truthfully, maybe a hug might be good to end on the first date, but uh, making love, not really. I don't see that. I don't really see that being a good way to end the first date. But but alright then.
Might be that they don't find anyone attractive ever. Demisexuals may not just see someone as physically hot and rate their attraction to someone based off of their appearance. This is an extension of point 1. The way demisexuals think about attractiveness seem to be different from how others think about it. Someone's attractive nature is found within for them. Physical appearance plays a very small, if not non-existent role in what draws them to someone. When peers talk about crushes, celebrities, and sex, the demisexual may find themselves a bit disconnected. Most people on the non-asexual side of the spectrum feel sexual attraction whether or not they have a close emotional bond with someone. They may have sexual feelings for attractive classmates, co-workers, people in the street, celebrities, friends of friends. However, they may choose to wait to have sex for reasons like it being against their religious beliefs or wanting to make sure the other person is kind and respectful, etc.
Yeah.
It's different for demis. They won't start out with these sexual feelings at all. They'd have to know more about the other person to feel like there is a deeper level of connection. Everyone has their individualized experiences, making us different and unique. Demisexuality is only one subset of an individual's identity. If a term helps others understand themselves better and does no harm to anyone else, it is as valid as it needs to be. If you'd rather ditch labels and just be yourself, all the more power to you. Whether or not you identify as a demisexual, we ask you to keep an open mind. Allow others to be themselves and bring their full selves with them everywhere they go. We're all human, and whatever we feel or do not feel is valid. Thank you for watching. Let us know in the comments if you have heard of demisexuality before. Did you learn something new? We have done a previous video on 10 types of sexualities, so feel free to check that out too. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button along with the bell to get notified of new videos. Thank you for your support, and until next time.
Hello, friends and neighbors. My name is Christian Verzosa, and I did the animation and music for this video. I would like to thank you guys so much for watching. It makes me so proud to see all your comments on YouTube and beyond. We're trying our absolute best to start
So if you guys want to know what that video was, that was titled Demisexuality by the channel Psych2Go. It came out 5 years ago, and that was actually a really good. That was actually a really good watch. But we also got one other thing that was brought up in the book that and that was race sexual. So I'm curious to know what that one is about.
And you kind of...
So race sexuality, we got Slice of Ace from a year ago. Let's see what that's all about.
Hello, my name is Daniel and I identify as homoromantic asexual. Today I'm going to answer the question, what is grey asexuality? This video won't be comprehensive.
Oh wait, that's not the right one actually. 5 signs
and you
that
kind
might
of
be
find
grey sexual.
and you kind of find yourself in between the whole and that.
So we're looking at 5 signs that you might be grey sexual by Lynn Saga. I guess it's going to answer the question a little bit about what grey sexuality is. Let's see it.
Am I ace? Am I something else? I don't know. That could be a really good sign that you are gray sexual. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, how are you? If you're coming back, thank you so much for coming back. I just want to let you know that all of my socials are in the description, my Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, Redbubble, and Patreon if you like to support this channel. Also, I just want to remind you to smash that like button, turn on notifications if you like to see more LGBTQ plus content from this face right here. So let's get into the video. So I've talked about 5 signs that you might be asexual and 5 signs that you might be demisexual on this channel before. So I thought, why not give all of you 5 signs that you might be gray sexual. I know I've had a few people in the comments ask me to do a video on gray sexuality, so that is what we are doing today. Just so you all know, I am planning on doing more gray, demi, and other identities under the asexual spectrum, just in general, so look out for those. I did have to do some research on gray sexuality, and I will be linking those in the description box below, so let's get into it. The first sign that you might be gray sexual is that you experience sexual attraction just very infrequently. Now, this not only is a sign that you're gray sexual, but it's actually the definition of gray sexuality. Gray sexuality literally refers to the gray area of the asexual spectrum and is defined as experiencing sexual attraction infrequently, at low intensity, or in an ambiguous way. Honestly, it might help to think of gray sexual folks as predominantly asexual for the majority of their lives, but having infrequent periods where they do have sexual attraction. But outside of these periods of sexual attraction, they are essentially pretty much identical to people who are asexual. So yeah, if that resonates with you, could be a sign that you are gray sexual. The second sign that you might be gray sexual is that you don't prioritize sex. Now, I do feel like this is a sign for a lot of people on the asexual spectrum, and it really can be applied to gray sexuals as well. Not having the desire or being perfectly fine with infrequent sex, both in and outside of a relationship.
Yeah, I think that one little tidbit did answer my question. Oh, what the hell? My TV just turned off. My TV just turned off, that's what it was. Okay. Well, I think we got our answer though. So we're gonna move on right into the book again. Kind of read more into the videos in the book, but whatever. Anyway. I'm just doing this just in case. Just in case we get anything new here. But anyway. The aromantic and asexual spectrums weren't just straight lines. They were radar charts with at least a dozen different axes. It was a lot. Like, a lot. The crux of it all was that I did not feel sexual or romantic feelings for anyone. Not a single goddamn person I had ever met. Not a single goddamn person I had ever met or would ever meet. So that really was me. Aromantic. Asexual. I came back to the words until they felt real in my mind, at least. Maybe they wouldn't be real in most people's minds, but I could make them real in mine. I could do whatever the fuck I wanted. I whispered them sometimes under my breath, until they felt like a magic spell. Pictured them as I fell asleep. I'm not sure when I realized that I was no longer feeling melancholic distress about my sexuality. The woe is me, I am loveless mood had just gone. It was anger now. I was so angry. At everything. I was angry at fate for dealing me these cards, even though I knew there was nothing wrong with me. Lots of people were like this. I wasn't alone. Love yourself, whatever. I didn't know how to get to that point where this would stop feeling like a burden and instead feel like something good, something I could celebrate, something I could share with the world. I was angry at every single couple I passed in the street, every single pair I saw holding hands, Every single time I saw that couple down the corridor flirting in the kitchen, every time I saw two people cozying up in the library or in the cafeteria, every time one of the authors I liked posted a new fan fiction, I was angry at the world for making me hate who I was. I was angry at myself for letting those feelings ruin my friendships with the best people in the world. I was angry at every single romance movie, every single fanfic, every single stupid OTP that had made me crave finding the perfect romance. It was because of all that, no doubt, that this new identity felt like a loss, when in reality, it should have been a beautiful discovery. Ultimately, the fact that I was angry about all of that just made me angrier, because I knew I shouldn't feel angry about any of these things. But I did, and I'm trying to be honest about it, okay? Okay. True love. The reality of the situation with Pip and Jason only sank in when they both dropped out of the Shakespeare Society on the same day. The last day of term. They didn't even do it in person. I didn't have high hopes that they would attend our rehearsal on the Friday before Christmas, but Rudy and I went along anyway, unlocked the room, switched on the electric heater, and moved the tables to one side. Sunil turned up none the wiser, wearing a coat that was basically a blanket and a smile on his face. We didn't know what to tell him. 10 minutes after they should have arrived, Pip messaged the group chat. Philip up with Donna. Hey, so me and Jason have decided we're not going to be in the play anymore. Too much of the work and stuff. Find some other people to replace us. Sorry. I saw it first, then passed my phone to Rooney. She read it. I watched as she bit down on the insides of her cheeks. For a moment she looked furious. Then she passed my phone back to me and turned round so neither me nor Sunil could see how upset she was. Sunil saw the message last. He looked up at us with a confused expression and asked, What happened? We all had an argument, I said, because I didn't know how to explain what an actual clusterfuck this small group of people had become, while Sunil was an innocent bystander, just wanted to take part in a fun theater society. And it was all because of me. I have always felt lonely, I think. I think a lot of people feel lonely. Rooney, Pip, maybe even Jason, though he hasn't said so. I'd spent my teenage life feeling lonely every time I saw a couple at a party or two people kissing outside the school gate. I'd felt lonely every time I read some cute proposal story on Twitter, or saw someone's 5-year anniversary Facebook post, or even just saw someone hanging out with their partner in their Instagram story, sitting with them on a sofa with their dog, watching TV. I felt lonely first because I hadn't experienced that, and I felt even lonelier when I started to believe I never would. The loneliness, being without Jason and Pip, was worse. Friends were automatically classed as less important than romantic partners. I'd never questioned that. It was just the way the world was. I guess I'd always felt that friendship just couldn't compete with what a partner offered, and that I'd never really experienced real love until I found romance. But if that had been true, I probably wouldn't have felt like this. I loved Jason and Pip. I loved them because I didn't have to think. I didn't have to think around them. I loved that we could sit in silence together. I loved that they knew all my favorite foods and they could instantly tell when I was in a bad mood. I loved Pip's stupid sense of humor and how she immediately made every room she entered a happier place. I loved how Jason knew exactly what to say when you were upset and could always calm you down. I loved Jason and Pip. and now they were gone. I had been so desperate for my idea of true love that I couldn't even see it when it was right in front of my face. Home. I pressed a cold hand against my car, which was as far up the driveway of our house as it could get. I'd missed my car. There were three other cars in our driveway and 4 more parked on the street outside, which told me one thing. All of the War family had congregated at our house. This was not an unusual occurrence around Christmas at the Wars, but a family party on December 21st was a little premature, and it was not exactly the environment I wanted to return to after my university term from hell. Georgia, what are you doing? Dad was holding open the front door for me. He picked me up from the station. Nothing, I said, dropping my hand from my car. There was a sort of cheer from the 20 or so members of my family, socializing in the living room as I entered. I guess that was nice. I had forgotten what it was like to be around that many people who knew who I was. Mom gave me a big hug. My older brother Jonathan and his wife Rachel came over for a hug too. Then Mom wasted no time in making me take everyone's tea and coffee orders and informing me of the hour-by-hour schedule for the next week, including the fact that my aunt, uncle, and cousin Ellis would be staying here until Boxing Day, like a big family sleepover. You don't mind Ellis sharing your room, do you? Mom asked. I wasn't thrilled by this turn of events, but I liked Ellis, so it wouldn't be too bad. My bedroom was exactly the same as I'd left it. Books, TV, stripy bedsheets, apart from the addition of a blow-up mattress for Ellis. I flopped straight onto my bed. It smelled right. Even by the end of term, university hadn't felt like home. Come on then! Come on then! Gran squawked at me as I squeezed onto the sofa next to her. Tell us everything. By everything, she definitely didn't mean how I'd utterly destroyed the very small number of friendships I'd had, begrudgingly realized that I wasn't straight. It was, in fact, a sexuality that very few people in real life had heard of, and realized that the world was so obsessed with romantic love that I couldn't go an hour without hating myself because I didn't feel it. So instead I told her and the other 12 family members listening in about my lectures, interesting, my room in college, spacious, and my roommate, very nice. Unfortunately, Gran liked to pry. And what about friends? Have you made any nice friends? She leaned toward me, patted me slightly on the leg. Or met any nice young men? I bet there are lots of lovely boys in Durham. I didn't hate Gran for being like this. It wasn't her fault. She had been raised to believe that it was a girl's primary aim in life to get married and have a family. She had done just that when she was my age, and I think she felt very fulfilled because of it. Fair enough. You do you. But that didn't stop me from being deeply, deeply annoyed. Actually, I said, trying as hard as I could to keep the irritation out of my voice, I'm not really interested in getting a boyfriend. Oh, well, she said, patting my leg again. Plenty of time, my love, plenty of time. But my time is now, I wanted to scream. My life is happening right now. My family then launched into a conversation about how easy it was to get into a relationship at uni. In the corner, I spotted my cousin Ellis, sitting quietly with a glass of wine and one leg crossed over the other. She caught my stare, smiled a small smile, and rolled her eyes at the group around us. I smiled back. Maybe, at least, I would have an ally. Ellis was 34 and used to be a model. A legit fashion model who did runway shows and magazines adverts. She gave that up in her mid-20s and used the money she'd saved to spend a couple of years painting, which, as it turned out, she was very good at. She's been a professional artist ever since. I only saw her a couple of times a year, but she always caught up with me when we did see each other, asking me how school was, how my friends were, if there had been any recent developments in my life. I'd always liked her. I don't know when I started to notice how Ellis was sort of the butt of the joke in our family. Every time she and Gran were in the same room, Gran would manage to drag the conversation back to the fact that she wasn't married yet and hadn't provided the family with any cute babies for them to coo over. Mom always spoke about her like she had some sort of tragic life just because she lived by herself and had never had a long-term relationship. I thought she had a super cool life, but I guess I had always wondered whether she was happy, or whether she was sad and alone, desperately wishing for romance, just like I had been. Excuse me. No boyfriend then? Alice asked me as I slumped down next to her in the conservatory that evening. Tragically, no, I said. Sounded a little sarcastic there. Maybe so. Emma smiled and shook her head. Don't worry about Gran. She's been saying the same things to me for the past 15 years. She's just scared she's going to die without a great-grandchild. I chuckled, even though this was something I thought about and felt a little bad about. I didn't want Gran to die unhappy. So, Alice continued, there haven't been any girlfriends instead? It took a moment for me to realize that she didn't mean girlfriend in the platonic sense of the word. She was asking me if I was gay. Which, massive props to Ellis. If I had been gay, this would have been a bloody amazing moment for me. No, I said. Not really interested in girlfriends either. Ellis nodded. For a moment she looked like she was going to ask something else, but then she just said, Fancy a bit of Cuphead? So he turned on the Xbox and played Cuphead until everyone went home or went to bed. Can we all just take a moment and say they got a really good taste in games with Cuphead? Can we just take a moment and say they picked a hard game that I've heard, a game that I've heard is very hard to beat? Doable, but hard. That's what I've heard. I would know this because I played it before, and for the life of me, I could not get past that one blue boss. That one boss that's blue. I can't remember the name though. Ellis. The Wars are one of those terrible families where Christmas Day present opening is banned until the late afternoon. But that year I didn't mind too much, having other things to think about. I hadn't asked for anything in particular, so I ended up with a big stack of books, an assortment of bath products I'd probably never use, and a sweatshirt from Mom featuring the phrase, fries before guys. The family had a good laugh about that one. After presents, the grandparents all fell asleep in the conservatory, and Mom got into an intense chess match against Jonathan, while Dad and Rachel prepared the tea. Alice and I played a bit of Mario Kart. Nice. Before I snuck off to my bedroom to chill out and check my phone. I opened my Facebook message chat with Pip. Georgia War. Merry Christmas. I love you. Hope you had a good day yesterday. XXXXX. Georgia. Look, I know you mean well. I understand you're trying to be nice. But you are messaging someone at a point in time where she is still hurting. Especially being angry with you as well as Rooney. So, probably not the best idea to do that. I'm just saying. It's probably not the best idea to have done that at all, period. Mm-mm. It was still unread. I'd been drunk when I sent it midway through Christmas dinner. Maybe she just hadn't seen it yet. I checked her Instagram. Pip's family celebrated Christmas primarily on Christmas Eve, and she'd been posting a lot of Instagram stories. She'd posted a photo in the early hours of the morning. Her family walking along the street on their way back from midnight mass. I fell asleep in church hall, and she'd posted another photo about half an hour ago of her in her family kitchen putting a dough ball into her mouth. Leftover buñuelos, get the fuck inside my belly. I thought about responding, but couldn't think of a funny thing to say. Since she posted that half an hour ago, she'd probably seen my message on her phone. She was just ignoring me. She still hated me then. I was tucked up in bed by 10 p.m. Overall, not a bad Christmas day, despite having lost my best friends and the way my singleness was becoming an ongoing family joke. One day I would probably have to tell them. I don't like guys. Oh, so you like girls? No, I don't like girls either. What? That doesn't make any sense. Yes, it does. It's a real thing. You just haven't met the right person yet. It'll happen with time. No, it won't. This is who I am. Are you feeling okay? Maybe we should get you an appointment with the GP. It's called being aromantic asexual. Well, that sounds fake, doesn't it? Did you hear about that on the internet? Okay. Didn't really want to venture into that conversation anytime soon. I was heading downstairs to get some water when I heard the raised voices. At first I thought it might just be Mom and Dad bickering at each other, but then I realized the voices were, in fact, Auntie Sal and Uncle Gavin, Ellis's parents. I hung back on the stairs, not wanting to interrupt. Look at Jonathan, Auntie Sal was saying. He's got it sussed. Married, his own house, his own business. He's set for life. And he's a decade younger than you, Uncle Gavin added. Oh, Ellis was there too. I wasn't super close to Auntie Sal and Uncle Gavin. Same as Ellis, really. They didn't live close by, so we only saw them a few times a year at family gatherings. But they always seemed a little more uptight than my parents. A little more traditional. I'm aware, said Ellis. Her voice took me by surprise. She sounded so tired. Doesn't that bother you at all? Asked Auntie Sal. What is there to bother me? That Jonathan is growing up, starting a family, making plans while you're still... Still what? Snapped Alice. What am I doing that's so bad? There's no need to shout, said Uncle Gavin. I'm not shouting. You're getting older, continued Auntie Sal. You're in your mid-30s. You're passing your dating prime. Soon it's gonna get harder and harder for you to have children. I don't want to date and I don't want children, said Alice. Oh, come on now, not this again. You are our only child, said Uncle Gavin. Do you know what that's like for us? You are the sole carrier of my surname. It's not my fault you didn't have any children, said oh damn! Damn! Yeah, oh my god, she went right Ellis going right straight for the fucking jugular, man. Holy shit. And what, that's it for us? No more children in the family? We don't get to be grandparents? That's the thanks we get for raising you? Ellis sighed loudly. We're not trying to criticize your life choices, said Auntie Sal. We know it's not about us, but we just want you to be happy. I know you think you're happy now, but what about 10 years from now? 20? 40? What would your life be like when you're grand's age? Without a partner? Without children? Who's going to be there to support you? You'll have no one. Maybe I would be happy, Ellis shot back, if you hadn't spent my entire life brainwashing me into thinking that finding a husband and having babies is the only way for me to feel my life is worth anything. Maybe then I would be happy. Auntie Sal went to interrupt, but Ellis cut her off. It's not as if I'm actively rejecting people, okay? Ellis sounded on the verge of tears now. I don't like anyone like that. I never do. This is just who I am, and one way or another we're all gonna have to put up with it. I can still do amazing things with my life. I have friends, and I'll make new friends. I was a successful model. Now I'm an artist and my paintings are selling really well. I'm thinking about going to uni to study art since I never got to go the first time. I have a really nice house. If you could ever be bothered to visit, if you tried, and I mean really tried, you could actually be proud of all the things I've done in my life and all the things I'm going to do. There was a long, horrible silence. What would you say, said Auntie Sal, speaking slowly as if choosing her words, to thinking about trying therapy again? I'm still not sure we found the right therapist last time. If we kept looking, we could find someone who could really help. Silence. You know what this moment is making me think of with this auntie? First off, she's a Karen. She's an asshole. She is a literal definition of an asshole. She really is. And nobody can convince me otherwise. Number two, if you guys have heard of the song Same Love, there's a moment where there's a moment in the song that really resonates with this part. That being the part where the right wing conservatives think it's a decision that you could be cured with some treatment or religion. Yeah. While taking out the conservative part, just the fact that people think that it's something that can be that it's a decision that you can be cured with some treatment in religion is really messed up. It can't, because I mean, if you guys notice, I have been a fan of I have been a supporter, I should say, of the LGBTQ plus community. I always have been ever since I first met a member of that community in my high school years. She was a lesbian in high school, and I treated her like a friend. I treated her very well. I didn't treat her any differently than I did anybody else. Because to me, the only thing I care about in a person, more than anything, is the person's character. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what your personal preferences are in regard to anything. I don't even care who you support. Even if I may have conversations with people and basically tell them, why I personally believe what they're saying is not really right, because I do believe in facts over fiction and opinion. Clouding my, if I'm going to have my judgment call, I'm going to believe in the facts, not fiction or opinion. So that's how I see it. But yeah, I mainly just judge on character. Anything else is second to me. Literally anything else is second to me. Silence. And then Ellis said, I don't need fixing. You don't get to do that to me again. There was the sound of chairs scraping the floor as someone stood up. "Oh, don't do this," said Uncle Gavin. "Don't have a strop like last time." What is a strop? That sounds like some sort of lingo from the other side. What is it? Hold on, let me ask Siri what this. What is a? Well, let me ask Siri about this. Hold on a second. You want to look it up for me? I have no idea. I tried using Siri. First time they say a strap, then they'd say straw. So the word is spelled STRROP. Could someone look that up for me and tell me what the definition of it is? Because I have no idea what that is. I'm very curious what that word means. "I am an adult," said Alice. There was a contained fury in her voice that reinforced the statement. "And if you're not going to respect me, then I'm not going to be around you." So for those that don't know what's going on here, Alice and her parents are having a conversation about about her decisions of not being with someone and having kids and choosing to have kids right now. They don't like it, but she's basically telling them, "I'm an adult. This is my choice, not yours. And if you can't respect that, I want nothing to." She basically saying, "I want nothing to do with you if you cannot respect me or my decisions." I watched, hidden in the darkness at the top of the stairs, as Alice sat down on the bottom step to put her shoes on. Then she pulled on her coat, calmly opened the front door, and stepped outside. Before I could think twice, I raced to my room, grabbed my dressing gown and slippers, and ran after her. Yes, I am keeping an eye on chat in between certain moments, so that way I don't miss anything. I found her sitting in her car, vape pen hanging from her mouth, but with seemingly no intention of smoking anything. I knocked on the window, which made her jump so hard that the vape pen flew out of her mouth. "Holy fucking shit," she said after turning on the ignition and rolling down the window. "You scared the absolute goo out of me." "Sorry." "What are you doing out here?" Maybe this was a bit awkward. "I heard your parents being shitty to you." Alice just looked at me. "I thought you could use some company," I said. "I don't know. I can go back inside if you want." Alice shook her head. "Nah, get in here." I opened the door and hopped inside. She actually had a really nice car. Modern. Way more expensive than my elderly flat Punto. There was a silence as I waited for her to say something. She located her vape pen, slotted it neatly into the compartment in front of the gear lever, and then said, "I'm in the mood for a McDonald's." "On Christmas Day?" "Yeah, I just really want a McFlurry right now." Excuse me. Thinking about it, I was actually really up for some chips. I guess it was a fries before guys day. Referencing her shirt, I like it. I also wanted to talk to Ellis about everything I just heard, especially about not liking anyone. We could go to McDonald's," I said. "Yeah?" "Yeah." So Ellis started the car, and off we went. I want to be honest here. I can already see the first line that's on this page that I just turned to start the next chapter. And the very first thing I'm thinking of is Gabriel Iglesias. For context, there was a joke that Gabriel Iglesias did. There was a story that he told about how when he goes to fast food restaurants and they mess up his order, as he put it himself, oh, I'm evil. So what he does is, if they mess up his order, he goes back around the drive-thru, and he goes back around the drive-thru, and they do the whole thing. Hello, just by. How are you? Hello, Malia. I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. How are you doing tonight? But yeah, he does that whole thing where he's like, "Welcome to the I want to help you," and he's like, and he does this thing where it's like, "Oh, you know what? Hold on, no. I'm not gonna say the story. I'm gonna have him say it himself. Hopefully, I don't get a copyright claim on this shit, because if I do, I'm gonna be pissed." Because I swear to God, this shit is fucking hilarious. Yeah, right. You gotta listen to this. Here's what I'm talking about.
Evil, man. I won't lie. If I don't have my way, like when I go to drive-thrus and they screw up my order, oh, I'm evil. I go back around and I start ordering, but I throw them off by doing this, right? They'll come on the speaker. We're gonna fantastic burger. How can I help you? And I'll do this.
Hello, sir. Can I please have a double cheeseburger, an order fries, and a shake?
Order fries and a shake.
Oh my God, yes.
That.
Pull up to the window.
That's why. That's what I was thinking of when I seen that. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of. We're not playing the rest of that clip because that's the only part of it that I was talking about. That's what I was thinking of when I first read that moment. Oh my God. I love that. I love that moment. Doing well. Good to hear. Good to hear you're doing well, Malia. Alright, let's get back into this. So right now, Georgia and her relative Ellis is now at a McDonald's because they wanted to go to McDonald's because Ellis's parents were a bunch of fucking assholes. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They were a bunch of assholes because as a song from, like I said, as a song from by Macklemore with I can't remember her name, but it was from the title Same Love. They are thinking that she needs treatment or therapy in this case because she's choosing not to be with anybody or wanting to have kids. And as I said before, I don't believe that. I believe if you want to have kids or you want to be in a relationship, that is up to you. And if you are in a relationship, I wish you luck in that. And if you have kids, I very much wish you luck with that because kids are not easy to deal with, or not easy to take care of. I know this because I babysat before with my niece and nephew. Multiple times, in fact. So yeah, that's fun. But yeah, right now they're at McDonald's. Yep. Platonic magic. Oh my God, yes, said Alice, dunking the plastic spoon into her McFlurry. This is what Christmas Day has always been missing. Agreed, I said, already halfway through my chips. McDonald's, she never lets me down. I'm not sure that's the slogan. It should be. We were parked in the restaurant's car park, which was almost entirely empty apart from us. I'd messaged Mom and Dad about where I was, and Dad sent back a thumbs up emoji, so they probably weren't bothered. Being in the car in my pajamas and dressing gown did feel a bit wrong, though. You wanna know how many times I have gone into stores or restaurants or just any public place in general, and I see people in their pajamas? It may feel weird to you, but I've seen it before. Not very often because I'm not really a morning person, but it happens. Ellis had chatted me to the whole way there about the most mundane topics. It was only a 15-minute drive, but for that whole 15 minutes, I hadn't able to get in much more than a yeah or an mm-hmm of agreement. I hadn't been able to ask anything I really wanted to ask. Are you like me? Are we the same? So, I was finally able to say it while she was mid-spoonful of ice cream. Your parents. She made a grunting noise. Oh yeah, Jesus. Sorry you had to hear any of that. It's very embarrassing that they still treat me like I'm 15. So, no offense to all the 15-year-olds out there. Even 15-year-olds don't deserve to be spoken to like that. They sounded, I searched for the word, unreasonable. Ellis laughed. Yeah, yes they did. Do they get at you about that stuff a lot? Whenever I see them, yeah, said Ellis. Which is less and less these days, to be honest. I couldn't imagine seeing Mom and Dad less and less. But maybe that's what would happen to me if I never got married or had children. I would just be phased out of my family. A ghost. Only popping up at occasional family gatherings. If I came out to them, would they make me get therapy like Ellis's parents had? Now, I think we can all agree, once again, she's overthinking the situation. While it is understandable for her to wonder how her family will react, at the same time, she is overthinking it to the max. It's understandable why, because she doesn't know how they're going to react, but still. Do you ever believe them? I asked. Ellis was clearly not expecting this question. She took a long breath in, staring at her ice cream. You mean, do I even feel like my life is worthless because I won't ever have a partner or children? She asked. It sounded worse when she put it like that, but I wanted to know. I needed to know whether I would always feel uncomfortable with this part of myself. Yeah, I said. Well, firstly, I can have children whenever I want. Adoption exists. But what about having a partner? She paused. And then she said, yes, I do feel like that occasionally. Oh, so maybe I was always going to feel like this. Maybe I would never feel comfortable with this. Maybe, but that's just a feeling, she continued. And I know it's untrue. I blinked up at her. Having a partner is what some people want. For others, it's not. It took me a long, long time to figure out that that's not what I want. In fact, she hesitated, but only for a moment. It took me a long time to realize that it's not even something I can want. It's not a choice for me. It's part of me that I can't change. I was holding my breath. How did you realize? I asked eventually, my heart in my mouth. She laughed. Well, are you in the mood for me to condense my entire life into one conversation over a Christmas Day McDonald's? Yes. Okay. She took a spoonful of ice cream. So, I never had any crushes when I was a child. Not any real ones, anyway. Sometimes I confused friendship for them or just thinking a guy was really cool. But I never really fancied anyone. Even celebrities or musicians or whatever. I'm starting to think she is being one of the two phrases that we talked about earlier, but let's keep going with this before we make that assumption, which I don't like making, to be honest. She raised her eyebrows and huffed out a sigh as if this was all a minor inconvenience. But the thing was, she said, everybody else I knew got crushes. They dated. All my friends talked about hot boys. They all got boyfriends. Our family has always been big and loving. You know, your parents and my parents and our grandparents and everyone else. So that was always what I saw as the norm. That was all I knew. In my eyes, dating and relationships were just what people did. It was human. So that's what I tried to do. Tried. She had tried too. And this continued into my late teens and then into my 20s, especially when I got into modeling, because everyone was getting with each other in modeling. So I would force myself to do it too, just to be involved and not be left out. She blinked. But I hated it. I hated every fucking second of it. There was a pause. I didn't know what to say. And I don't know when I started to realize that I hated it. For a long time I was just dating and having sex because that's what people did. And I wanted to feel... Why are there no likes? Hello... Hello, hold on, let me take a close look at the name, because I hate mispronouncing names. Hello, a drama fan, and I'm hoping I pronounced that correctly. Hope you're doing well tonight. Why are there no lights? Well, they're not required for me to think people enjoy it. Just if they enjoy them. Just them saying I'm enjoying this is enough for me. Whether they like this video or whether they like the stream or not is up to them. But as far as I'm concerned, as long as you guys are having a good time, liking or not liking, as long as you guys are having a good time, that's all that matters to me. Also, happy Friday. And thank you for the like. I will say that much, though. I always do thank people for doing the like. Going back to the story. I'm going to start that paragraph again. I don't know when I started to realize that I hated it. For a long time I was just dating and having sex because that's what people did. And I wanted to feel like those people. I wanted the fun, exciting beauty of romance and sex. But there was always this underlying feeling of wrongness, almost disgust. It just felt wrong on a fundamental level. I felt a wave of relief that I had never let myself go that far. Maybe I was a little stronger than I thought. And yet I kept trying to like it. I kept trying. Maybe I'm just picky. Maybe I haven't met the right guy. Maybe I like girls instead. Maybe. She shook her head. Maybe never came. It never got here. She leaned back in the driver's seat, staring ahead of the soft glow of McDonald's. There was the fear, too. I didn't know how I was going to function in this world alone. Not just alone now, but endlessly alone. Partnerless until I die. You know why people pair up into couples? Because being a human is fucking terrifying. But it's a hell of a lot easier if you're not doing it by yourself. I guess that was the crux of it. I could, on a base level, accept that I was like this, but I didn't know how I was going to deal with that for the rest of my life. 20 years from now. 40. 60. Then Ellis said, "But I'm older now. I've learned some things." "Like what?" I asked. "Like the way friendship can be just as intense, beautiful, and endless as romance. Like the way there's love everywhere around me. There's love for my friends, there's love in my paintings, there's love for myself. There's even love for my parents in there somewhere, deep down." She laughed and I couldn't help but smile. "I have a lot more love than some people in the world, even if I'll never have a wedding." She took a big spoonful of ice cream. "There's definitely love for ice cream, let me tell you that." I laughed, and she grinned at me. I was hopeless about being like this for a long time, she said, and then shook her head. But I'm not anymore. Finally. Finally, I'm not hopeless anymore. I wish I could be like that, I said, the words tumbling out of my mouth before I could stop them. Ellis raised a curious eyebrow at me. Yeah? I took a deep breath. I took a breath. Okay, now or never. I think I'm like you, I said. I don't like anyone either. Romance-wise, I mean. Dating and stuff, I just can't feel any of it. I used to want it. I mean, I still think I do want it sometimes. But I can never really want it, because I don't feel that way for anyone. If that makes sense. I could feel myself going redder and redder the more I spoke. Ellis said nothing for a moment. Then she ate another spoonful of ice cream. That's why you got in the car, isn't it? She asked. She said. I nodded. Well, she said. She seemed to realize the magnitude of what I'd admitted. Well, it's a real sexuality, I said. I didn't even know if Ellis knew it was a sexuality. Just like being gay or straight or bi. Ellis chuckled. The nothing sexuality. It's not nothing, well, it's two different things. Aromantic is when you don't feel romantic attraction, and asexual is when you don't feel sexual attraction. Some people are just one or the other, but I'm both, so I'm aromantic asexual. That wasn't the first time I'd said those words, but every time I said them, they felt like a little more at home in the air around me. Ellis considered this. Two things. 2 in 1. Buy one, get one free. Love that. I snorted, which made her genuinely laugh, and all the nerves that had been constricting my chest eased. Who told you about them then? She asked. Someone at uni, I said. But Sunil wasn't just someone, was he? One of my friends. Are they also? They're asexual too. Wow, Ellis grinned. Well, that makes 3 of us. There are more, I said. A lot more. Out there. In the world. Really? Yeah. Ellis stared out of the window, smiling. That would be nice, if there were lots out there. We sat in silence for a moment. I finished eating my chips. There were more of us out there. Neither of us was alone in this. You're very lucky to know all of this, said Ellis suddenly. She shook her head. I guess I'm a bit jealous. Why? I asked, confused. She looked at me. I just wasted a lot of time, that's all. She tucked her empty McFlurry cup into the back seat and turned on the ignition. I don't feel lucky, I said. What do you feel? I don't know. Lost. I thought of Sunil. My friend said I don't have to do anything. He said all I need to do is be. Your friend sounds like a wise old sage. That just about sums him up. Ella started driving us out of the car park. I don't like doing nothing, she said. It's boring. So what do you think I should do? She gave this some thought for a moment. Then she said, give your friendships the magic you would give a romance. Because they're just as important. Actually, for us, they're way more important. She glanced to one side at me. There. Was that sage-like enough for you? I grinned. Very sage-like. I can be profound. I am an artist. You should put this in a painting. You know what? Maybe I will. She raised a hand and twinkled her fingers. I'll call it platonic magic. And no one who isn't like us... Wait, what was it? Aromantic asexual? Yes. No one who isn't aromantic asexual will understand it. Can I have it? Do you have 2,000 pounds? Referring to British currency, just so anybody knows what they mean by pounds. And I know some people know this, I'm just saying it in case people don't. Your paintings are selling for 2,000 pounds? They sure are. I'm pretty good at my job. Can I get a student discount? Maybe. Just because you're my cousin. Student cousin discount. And then we were laughing as we reached the motorway, and I thought about the magic that I could find. Maybe, if I looked a little harder. I'm actually gonna go ahead and take a little breather and get me something to drink. I will be right back. I am surprised that it's only almost 1 o'clock. I think it would be later than that. But alright. Alright. Okay, I have returned. Let's go ahead and get right back to this book. We're actually almost to the... We're actually a few pages away from the ending of the first half of the book that I'm going to have as my stopping point. So, let's go ahead and read the rest. Memories. Magic was not what I found when I returned to my college room on the afternoon of January 11th. What I found instead was most of Rooney's possessions scattered around the floor, her wardrobe wide open, her bedsheets several meters away from her bed, Roderick a worrying shade of brown, and the aqua rug inexplicably crammed into the sink. I had just unzipped my suitcase when Rooney entered wearing pajamas, looked at me, looked at the rug in the sink, and said, I spilled tea on it. She sat on her bed while I tidied her possessions, squeezed the water out of the rug, and even snipped most of the dead bits off Roderick. The photo of mermaid hair Beth had fallen on the floor again, so I stuck it back on the wall, without saying anything about it, while Rooney watched, expressionless. What is that? I asked about her Christmas, but the only thing she said was that she hated spending time in her hometown. Then she went to bed at 7 o'clock. So yeah, Rooney was clearly not in a great place. To be fair, I understood why. The play wasn't going to happen. Her unspoken thing with Pip was not going to happen. The only thing she really had was, well, me, I guess. Not a great consolation prize, in my opinion. We should go out, I said to her at the end of our first week back at uni. It was the early evening. She glanced at me over the top of her laptop screen and then continued what she was doing, watching the YouTube videos. Why? I was seated at my desk. Because you like going out. I'm not in the mood. Rooney had made it 2 out of 6 lectures that week. Made it to 2 of our 6 lectures that week. And when she had come, she had simply stared ahead, not even bothering to put her iPad out of her bag, get her iPad out of her bag to take notes. It was like she just didn't care about anything anymore. We could just go to a pub or something, I suggested, sounding a little desperate. Just for one drink. We could get cocktails. Or chips. We could get chips. This prompted an eyebrow raise. Chips? Chips. I would like some chips. Exactly. We could go to the pub, get some chips, get some fresh air, then come back. She looked at me for a long moment. And then she said, okay. The nearest pub was packed, obviously, because it was a Friday night in the university town. Thankfully, we found a tiny beer-stained table in the back room, and I left Rudy to guard it while I procured us a bowl of chips to share in a jug of strawberry daiquiri with 2 paper straws. We sat and ate our chips in silence. I actually felt very calm, considering the fact that I was technically on a night out. All around us were students dressed up for the evening, ready to spend a couple of hours in a bar before heading out to clubs later. Rudy was wearing leggings and a hoodie, while I was wearing joggers and a woolly jumper. We probably stuck out quite a lot, but compared to the hell of Freshers Week, I was extremely relaxed. So, I said, after we'd sat in silence for over 10 minutes, I've been sensing that you are not having a great time right now. Rudy stared at me blankly. I enjoyed the chips. I meant generally. She took a long sip from the jug. No, she said, Everything's shit. I waited for her to open up about it, but she didn't, and I realized I was going to have to pry. The play? I said. Not just that, Rooney groaned and leaned over the table on one hand. Christmas was hell. I spent most of it meeting up with my school friends, and like, he was always there. It took me a moment to realize who she meant by he. Your ex-boyfriend, I said. He ruined so many things for me. Rooney started stabbing the fruit in our cocktail jug with her straw. Every time I see his face, I want to scream. And he doesn't even think he did anything wrong. Because of him, God, I could have been a much better person if I'd never met him. He's the reason I'm like this. I didn't know what to say to that. I wanted to ask her what happened, what he did, but I didn't want to force her to revisit bad stuff if she didn't want to. There was a long silence after she spoke. By the time she spoke again, she had successfully skewered all of the fruit in her jug. I really like Pip, she said in a very quiet voice. I nodded slowly. You knew? She asked. I nodded again. Rudy chuckled. She took another sip. How come you know me better than anyone? She asked. We live together? I said. She just smiled. We both knew it was more than that. So, what are you going to do? Nothing? Rudy scoffed. She hates me. I mean, yes, but she misinterpreted the situation. We made out. There's not much to misinterpret. She thinks that we're her thing. That's the reason she's angry. Rooney nodded. Because she thinks I'm taking you away from her. I almost groaned at the stupidity. No, because she likes you back. The look on her face was like I'd taken a glass and smashed it over her head. That's just... You're just wrong about that, she stammered, going a little red in the face. I'm just saying what I see. I don't want to talk about Pip anymore. We fell into silence again for a few moments. I knew Rooney was smart about this sort of thing. I'd watched her effortlessly navigate relationships of all kinds since the first day I'd met her. But when it came to Pip, she had the emotional intelligence of a single grape. So you like girls? I asked. The scowl on her face dropped. Yeah, probably. I don't know. 3 wildly different answers to that question. I don't know, then. I guess... I question whether I liked girls a bit when I was younger. When I was 13, I had a crush on one of my friends. A girl, but like... She made a shrugging gesture. All girls do that, right? Like, that's common. Having little crushes on your female friends. No, I said, trying not to laugh. Nope, not all girls do that. Example A, I gestured to myself. Well, okay then. She looked to one side. I guess I like girls then. She said it with such nonchalance. It was as if she'd realized her sexuality and come out in the space of about 10 seconds. But I knew her better than that. She'd probably been figuring it out for a while, just like I had. Does that make me bi? She asked. Or pan? Or what? Whatever you want, you can think about it. Yeah, I guess I will. She was staring at the table. You know, when we kissed, I think I did that because there's always been this part of me who's wanted to, you know, be with girls. And you were just a safe option to try it out because I knew you wouldn't hate me forever. Which was a really shit thing to do, obviously. God, I'm so sorry. It was a shit thing to do, I agreed. But I can relate about accidentally using people because you're confused about your sexuality. We both fucked up in a lot of ways. And while our sexuality confusion wasn't an excuse, it was good that we both realized our mistakes. Maybe that meant we'd make less of them going forward. I never had any gay or bi friends at school, Rooney said. I didn't really know anyone openly gay, actually. Maybe I would have figured it out sooner if I had. My best friend has been out since she was 15, and it still took me years to figure myself out, I said. True. Wow. Shit's tricky. Yep, she snorted. I'm at uni for 3 months and suddenly I'm not straight anymore. Mood, I said. Love that for us, I guess? She asked. Love that for us, I agreed. I got us a second cocktail jug, Cosmopolitan, and nachos. We were halfway through the jug when I told Rudy my plan. I'm gonna get Jason and Pip to come back to the Shakespeare Soch, I said. Rudy crushed a particularly cheesy nacho in her mouth. Good luck with that. You're welcome to help me. What's your plan? I mean, I haven't got quite that far yet. There will probably be a lot of apologizing involved. Terrible plan, said Rudy, chomping down on another nacho. It's all I have. And if it doesn't work? If it doesn't work? Wait, hold on, let me fix that. And if it doesn't work? If it didn't work? I didn't know what would happen then. Maybe that would be it for me, Jason, and Pip. Forever. We finished the nachos. It didn't take long. And the cocktail jug. Before heading toward the pub door, both of us feeling a little bit fuzzy. I was ready to sleep, honestly, but Rudy had fallen into a chatty mood. I was glad. Alcohol and chips definitely weren't the healthiest solution to her problems, but she seemed a little happier at least. Job done. That mood lasted the 30 seconds it took us to get to the door, and then it was gone. Because standing just outside, surrounded by friends, was Pip Quintana herself. Oh, this isn't gonna end well. For a brief moment, she didn't see us. She'd had a hair trim, her curly fringe just meeting her eyebrows, and she was dressed up for a night out. Stripy shirt, tight jeans, and a brown aviator jacket that made him look like one of the guys from Top Gun. With the bottle of cider in one hand, it was a look. I could practically feel the wave of horror spill from Rooney as Pip turned round and saw us. Oh, said Pip. Hi, I said, having no idea what else to say. Pip stared at me. Then her eyes flitted to Rooney, from her messy ponytail down to her mismatched bed socks. What, on a date or something? Said Pip. This immediately annoyed me. Clearly we're not on a date, I snapped. I'm wearing joggers. Whatever. I don't want to talk to you. She started to turn back round, but froze as Rooney spoke. You can be mad at me, but don't be mad at Georgia. She's done nothing wrong. This was absolutely untrue. Pip had heavily implied that she liked Rooney, and that I'd kissed Rooney anyway. Not to mention everything I'd done to Jason. But I appreciated the support. Oh, fuck off with that taking the blame shit, Pip said. Since when are you suddenly trying to be a good person? She swung round so she could speak right to Rooney's face. You're selfish, you're nasty, and you don't give a shit about other people's feelings. So don't come up to me and try to pretend to be a good person. Pip's friends had all started murmuring, wondering what was going on. Rooney stepped forward, teeth gritted, and nostrils flaring like she was about to start shouting, but she didn't. She just turned around and walked away down the street. I stayed still, wondering whether Pip was going to say anything to me. She looked at me for a long moment, and I felt like my brain rushed through the entirety of our past 7 years of friendship. Every single time that we'd sat next to each other in lessons, every sleepover and PE lesson and cinema trip, every time she'd crack a joke or sent me a stupid meme, every time I'd almost cried in front of her. Didn't. Couldn't. But almost. I just can't believe, she said through an exhale. I thought you cared about my feelings. Then she turned away too, rejoining in a conversation with her new friends, and all of those memories smashed around me into tiny pieces. Excuse me. So we have 3 more chapters, well, technically 2 chapters and a mini one, which we're about to read, the mini chapter here, until my stopping point. Love ruins everything. Rudy spent the whole walk back to college tapping away on her phone. I didn't know who she was messaging. When we got to our room, she quickly changed into a nicer outfit, and I knew she was going out. Don't, I said, just as she reached the door and she stopped and turned around to face me. You know what I've learned? She said. Love ruins everything. I didn't agree, but I didn't know how to argue with a statement like that. So she left and I just said nothing. And when I walked towards my bed, I found the photo of mermaid hair Beth on the floor again, partially crumpled, like Rooney had ripped it off the wall. You deserve joy. I went to Pride Social's January social at the Student Union alone. It was our 3rd week of term, and I tried to lure Rooney into coming with me, but she'd been spending most nights out in town clubbing, returning around 3 a.m., with dirty shoes and messed up hair. It was up to me to find Pip, and there was a chance she'd be at a Pride social event. If I could just talk to her. I figured she would understand if I could get her to listen to me for long enough to explain, then everything would be okay again. If only it were that simple for young adults who are still in their teenager phase. Because that's what these people, even when you are 18, you are still going to have teenager mentality, let's be honest. Even though you're still going to be thinking more of an adult type of stuff as time goes on, you're still going to have teenager tendencies. That's just a fact. Come on. The instant regret I felt upon showing up to the social was almost enough to send me running right back to college. We were in the biggest room in the student union. At the head of the room was a projector screen displaying all of Pride Social's upcoming events for the term. Music was playing, people were dressed casually, gathered in circles or sitting at tables to chat and catch up over some snacks. It was a social, in which the point was to socialize. I was at a gathering with the specific purpose of socializing, on my own. Why the absolute Jesus had I done this? No. Okay. I was brave. And there were cupcakes. I went to get a cupcake for emotional support. Sunil, Jess, and hopefully Pip were there, so there were people I knew. I searched around and quickly found Sunil and Jess in the center of a group of people having a loud conversation. But I didn't want to disturb them when they probably had lots of things to do and lots of people to talk to. So I left them to it and continued on my search for Pip. I walked around the room 3 whole times before concluding that she was not there. Great. I got my phone out and checked her Instagram, only to discover that she was posting in her story about a movie night with her friends at Castle. She wasn't even planning to attend this event. Great. Georgia! A voice made me jump. Sunil's voice. I turned to find him striding toward me, wearing loose culottes made out of a jersey material that looked simultaneously very cool and very comfy. Sorry, did I make you jump? No, I stammered. It's fine. I just wanted to see whether anything had happened with the Shakespeare Soch, he asked, with an expression so hopeful that it actually hurt my heart. I know you lot had an assignment, but I was just hoping that maybe you'd sorted it out or something. He smiled meekly. I know it was just a bit of fun, but I was really enjoying it. The look on my face was probably answer enough, but I told him anyway. No, I said, it's still all... I made a gesture with my hands. It's not happening. Oh, Sunil nodded as if he'd expected it, but his obvious disappointment made me want to cry a bit. That's really sad. I'm trying to make things right, I said instantly. I'm actually here because I wanted to find Pip and see if she'd reconsider. Sunil Pot glanced around the room. I don't think I've seen her. No, I don't think she's here. There was a pause. I didn't know what to tell him. I didn't know how to make any of this better. Well, if there's anything I can do, said Sunil, I'd like to help. It really was nice to just have something fun to do that wasn't stressful. Everything's a bit stressful for me at the moment, with the third year and Pride Social Lloyd is determined to be a perpetual annoyance in my life. He glanced quickly towards where the ex-president Lloyd was sitting at the table. Lloyd was sitting at a table with a group of people. What's he been doing? He's been trying to weasel himself back onto the society exec. Sunil rolled his eyes. He thinks his opinions are vital to the society because my perspective is too inclusive. Can you believe that? Too inclusive? This is a society for queer and questioning students, for God's sake. You don't have to take a test to get in. He's a dickhead, I said. He is. Very much so. Is there anything I can do to help? Sunil laughed. I don't know. Spill a drink on him? No, I'm joking. You're sweet, though. He shook his head. Anyway, Shakespeare Soch. Is there any way I can help resolve the situation? He looked almost desperate. It really was the most fun I've had in quite a while. Well, unless there's a way you can get Jason and Pip to talk to me and Rudy again, I don't think there's really any way that's happening. I could talk to Jason, he said instantly. We chat on WhatsApp occasionally. I could get him to come to a rehearsal. I felt my heart race with hope. Really? Are you sure? I really don't want this play to fall apart, Sunil shook his head. I really didn't have any fun hobbies before. Orchestra is stressful and Pride Soch doesn't count as a hobby, and they're fun, but they're work. This play, it was just joy, you know? He smiled, gazing down. When we started rehearsing, honestly, I was a little concerned it was a waste of time. Time I should be using studying and doing things for my other societies. But making friends with you all, acting out fun scenes, having pizza nights, and everyone's silly messages in the group chat, it was just joy. Pure joy. And it took me so long to feel like I deserved that. But I do. And this is it! He let out a bright, carefree laugh. And now I'm oversharing. I wondered whether he was a little tipsy before remembering that Sunil didn't drink alcohol. He was just being earnest. It made me want to be earnest, too. You do deserve that, I said. You helped me so much. I don't know where I would be or how I would feel if I hadn't met you, and I feel like you've done that for a lot of people. And it's been hard sometimes, and people haven't always checked up on you. I found embarrassed by what I was saying, but I wanted him to know. And even if you don't, and even if you've done none of that, you're my friend, and you're one of the best people I know. So you do deserve that. You deserve joy. I couldn't stop myself from smiling. And I like it when you overshare. He laughed again. Why are we being all emotional? I don't know. You started it. We were interrupted by Jess and another of Sunil's vice presidents, who had come to summon him to the front of the room. Sunil had to make a speech. I'll message him, he said as he walked away. That was when I knew that I could not rest until I got the Shakespeare Soch back together. Not just because I wanted Pip and Jason to be my friends again, but for Sunil too. Because, despite his hectic life and all the important things he had going on, he'd found joy in our stupid little play. And months ago, at that autumn Pride Soch formal, Sunil had been there for me in a moment of crisis, even while he was stressed out and dealing with assholes. Now it was my turn to be there for him. I hung around for Sunil's speech, on the sidelines with a cupcake and a full glass of wine. Sunil got up on stage, tapped the microphone, and said that was enough for the attendees. That was enough for the attendees to start clapping and to start applauding and whooping. He introduced himself, thanked everyone for coming, and then spent a few minutes going through all the upcoming events for the term. The film night this month would be Moonlight. The Pride Club nights would be on the January 27th, February 16th, and March 7th. The Trans Book Club would take place at the Bill Bryson Library on January 19th. The Big Queer Dungeons & Dragons group was looking for new members, and it was someone named Mickey's turn to host the Queer, Trans, and Intersex People of Color Society dinner on February 20th at their flat in Giles Gate. How fitting that they're talking about a trans book club when the next book that I'll be reading, and yes, this is me actually announcing very prematurely what the next book is, I know, but this is actually the next book I'll be reading. And the main character is a transgender character. And I am very much looking forward to reading it, actually. So yeah, that's kind of fitting with what I just said. Very fitting indeed. And there were lots more. Hearing about all those things and seeing all the people getting excited about them made me feel excited in a weird way. Even though I wouldn't go to most of them, I almost felt like I belonged to something just by being there. I think that's covered all of this term's events, Samuel concluded. So, just before I let you carry on eating and chatting, I just wanted to thank you all for what a great few months we had last term. There was another round of applause and cheers. Sunil grinned and clapped too. I'm glad you enjoyed it too. I was pretty nervous about being your president. I know I implemented some big changes, like turning the bar crawls into formals and introducing more daytime activities for the society, so I'm really thankful for your support. He gazed out into the distance suddenly, like he was thinking about something. When I was a fresher, I didn't feel like I belonged at Durham. I'd arrived hoping to finally meet some people like me, but instead, I found myself still surrounded by a lot of cis, straight white people. I'd spent a lot of my teenage life very alone, and by that point I'd gotten used to it. I spent a long time thinking this was the way things had to be. I had to survive on my own. I had to do everything on my own, because nobody would ever help me. I spent much of that first year in a really dark place, until I met my best friend Jess. Sunil pointed towards Jess, who quickly put a hand in front of her face in a half-hearted attempt to hide. There were a few more cheers. Jess won me over instantly with the numerous items of clothing that had dogs on them. The crowd chuckled and Jess shook her head, her smile just peeking out from behind her hand. She was the funniest and bubbliest person I'd ever met. She encouraged me to join Pride Soch. She brought me to one of the original QTIPOC dinners, and we had so many discussions about how the society could be better. And then she encouraged me to try for president with her at my side, he grinned. I thought she would be president, but she told me 1,000,000,000 times how much she hates public speaking. Sunil smiled down at Jess, and Jess smiled back at him, and there was such genuine love in that gaze. I felt dazzled by it. Pride Soch isn't just about doing queer stuff, Sunil continued, and that got him some laughs. It's not even about finding potential hookups. Someone in the crowd shouted their fan's name, which earned more laughs. Sunil laughed with them. No, it's about the relationships we form here. Friendship, love, and support, while we're all trying to survive and thrive in a world that often doesn't feel like it was made for us. Whether you're gay, lesbian, bi, pan, trans, intersex, non-binary, asexual, aromantic, queer, or however you identify, most of us here felt a sense of unbelonging while we were growing up. Sunil looked one more time at Jess, then back down at the crowd. But we're all here for each other, and it's those relationships that make Pride so important and so special. It's those relationships that, despite all of the hardships in our lives, will continue to bring us joy every single day. He raised his glass, and we all deserve joy. It was kind of cheesy, maybe, but it was also one of the loveliest speeches I'd heard in my whole life. Everyone raised their drinks, then cheered for Sunil as he stepped down, and Jess buried him in a hug. That was it. That was what everything was about. The love in that hug. The knowing look between them. They had their own love story. That was what I wanted. That was what I'd had. Once, maybe. I used to dream of a spellbinding, endless, forever romance. A beautiful story of meeting a person who could change your whole world. But now, I realized, friendship could be that too. On my way out of the room, I found myself nearing Lloyd's table. He was sitting with a couple of other guys, drinking their way through a bottle of wine with sour expressions on their faces. It's so pathetic the way he feels like he needs to bring up sexuality literally every time he does one of these, Lloyd was saying. Next time, we'll be getting on any old cissets joining who think they're mildly oppressed. The way he said it sent a shot of cold heart hatred into the pit of my stomach. But I was feeling brave, I guess. As I walked past, I let my now half-full cup of wine gracefully tip in my hand and over the back of Lloyd's neck. What the fuck? By the time he'd swung himself round to see who had just poured wine over him, I was already halfway to the door with a massive smile on my face. And now, the final chapter for part 1. Well, for the first half of part 4. Ah, yes. Once I'm finished with this chapter, you will see why I made it the stopping point. I think this is probably the most appropriate stopping point I've ever had for this story. For anything that I've made stopping points for. Jason. Sunil Jia. Jason is in! Georgia wore. Seriously? Sunil Gia. Yep. He agreed to come along as a personal favor to me, but he said he's still not sure about rejoining. Frown face. Georgia. Okay. So, I have an idea about how to win him back. No, said Rooney, once I explained my idea to her. She was on her bed. I was watering Roderick, who was not half as voluminous as he once had been due to the dead bits I'd chopped, but wasn't quite dead as I'd previously thought. It'll work. It's stupid. It's not. He has a good sense of humor. Rudy was sprawled in her going out clothes, eating breadsticks straight from the packet, something that had recently become her pre-night out routine. The Shakespeare Soci's finished, she said, and I knew she believed it. She wouldn't be going out all the time if she hadn't given up on it completely. Just trust me, I can win him back. Rudy gave me a look. She crunched a breadstick loudly. Okay, she said, but I get to be Daphne. That makes sense, doesn't it? I skipped my lectures the next day to go to a costume hunt. It took most of the morning and a solid chunk of the afternoon. Durham had one costume shop down the tiny alleyway, and they didn't have exactly what I was looking for, so I ended up trawling the clothes and charity shops for whatever I could find to create a makeshift costumes. Rudy even joined me after lunch, sunglasses on to hide her bags under her eyes. She'd been sleeping till midday most days lately. I sacrificed a lot of my allowance for this month to get everything, meaning I'd have to live off cafeteria food for the next couple of weeks. But it was a worthy sacrifice, because once Rudy and I arrived early at our rehearsal room and changed into our costumes, I knew that this was the best idea I had ever had in my life. So, excuse me. Oh, this is the cosplay of my dreams, said Sunil, as I handed them a bright orange jumper, a red skirt, and some orange socks. We finished changing, and then we waited. And I started to think this may have been a terrible idea. Maybe he wouldn't find it funny. Maybe he'd take one look at me and then leave. There was only one way to find out. What is going on? Jason asked, stepping into the room and frowning at our odd get-ups. I'd missed him. God, I'd missed him, and his fluffy jacket and soft smile. What are you do? His eyes widened suddenly. He checked Sunil's skirt. My oversized green t-shirt and brown trousers. Rudy's little green scarf and purple tights. Oh my god, he said. He dropped his bag on the floor. Oh my god, he said. Surprise! I cried, holding out my hands in the dog plushie I'd found at one of the high street charity shops. Rudy flipped her hair back and posed as Daphne, while Sunil shouted, Jinkies! And pushed up his velvet glasses. Jason put his hand on his heart. For a second I was terrified that he was annoyed or upset, but then he smiled. A big, toothy smile. Why the actual hell? Literally, what the fuck? Why the fuck are you dressed as the Scooby Gang? There's a costume club night tonight, I said, grinning. I thought this would be fun. Jason approached us, and then he just started laughing. Slowly at first, but then louder. He took the dog plushie from my hand and looked at it, and then it was almost hysterical. Scooby's, he gasped through his laughter. Scooby's supposed to be a Great Dane, This is a pug! I started laughing with him. It was the best I could do. Don't laugh. You cast Scooby. He literally started wheezing. You cast Scooby as a pug. What is this? Absolute defamation. He doubled over, and then we were just crying laughing while he was holding that tiny pug plushie. It took a few minutes for us to calm down, Jason wiping the tears from his face. In that time, Rooney had taken the final items of clothing we bought today out of the carrier bag and held them up to Jason. A white jumper, orange scarf, and blonde wig. He looked at them. My time, he said, has come. So, you really like Scooby-Doo? Sunil asked Jason later that night, once we'd made it to the club. It was packed full of students dressed as everything from superheroes to giant whisks. More than most things in this world, said Jason. We danced. We danced a lot. And for the first time since getting to this university, I actually enjoyed it. All of it. The loud music, the sticky floor, the drinks served in tiny plastic cups, the old classics this club was playing, the drunk girls we befriended in the bathroom because of the pug plushie I'd been carrying around, Rudy slinging her arm over my shoulder, Tipsy swaying along to Happy Together by the Turtles and Walking on Sunshine by Katrina and the Waves, Sunil grabbing Jason by the hands and forcing him to do the Macarena even though he thought it was cringy. Everything was better because of my friends. If they hadn't been there, I would have hated it. I would have wanted to go home. I kept an eye on Rooney. There was one point in the night where she started drunkenly chatting and laughing with another group of people, students I had never even seen before, and I wondered whether she was going to do her thing and abandon us. But when I grabbed her hand, she turned away from them and looked at me, her face flashing different colors under the lights, and she seemed to remember why she was here. She remembered that she had us. And I pulled her back to where Jason and Sunil were jumping up and down to jump around by House of Pain, and we started jumping and she smiled right in my face. I knew she was still hurting. I was too. But for a moment she seemed happy. So happy. All in all, I had one of the best nights of my university life. I'm screaming, said Rudy, with a mouthful of pizza as we walked through Durham back to our colleges. This is the best thing I've ever had in my mouth. That's what she said Jason, which set Rudy off in a laughing fit and quickly turned into a coughing fit. I bit into my own pizza slice, agreeing with Rudy. Something about a hot takeaway pizza in the middle of the night in the freezing northern winter was, to be frank, heavenly. Jason and I walked side by side. Rudy and Sunil walked a little way ahead, engaged in discussion about the best pizza place in Durham. I hadn't yet had a chance to talk to Jason one-on-one. Until now. I didn't really know how to start. How to apologize for everything. How to ask if there was a chance we could be friends again. Fortunately, he spoke up first. I wish Pip was here, he said. She would have loved tonight. It wasn't what I expected him to say, but as soon as he did, I realized how right he was. Jason snorted. I have such a clear vision of her dressed up as Scooby-Doo, doing the Scooby-Doo voice. Oh my god, yes! I can literally hear it! And it's terrible. She would be terrible. We both laughed. Like everything was back to normal. But it wasn't. Not until we talked about it. I started to say, but I stopped myself because it didn't feel like enough. Nothing I could say felt like enough. Jason turned to face me. We just reached one of the many bridges that stretched over the river Wear. Are you cold? He asked. You can borrow my jacket. No, no. I was gonna say I'm sorry, she said. Or I said. Ugh. Jason pulled his jacket back on. Oh. I'm so sorry for everything. I'm just so sorry for everything. I stopped walking because I couldn't feel myself welling up and I didn't want to cry in front of him. I really, really didn't want to cry. I love you so much, and trying to date you was the worst thing I've ever done. Jason stopped walking. It was pretty bad, wasn't it? He said after a pause. We were very shit at it. This made me laugh despite everything. You didn't deserve to be treated like that, I continued, trying to get it all out now while I had the chance. Jason nodded. That is true. And I need you to know that it was nothing to do with you. You're perfect. Jason smiled and attempted to flip the hair of his wig. Also true. I'm just different. I just can't feel that stuff. Yeah, Jason nodded again. You're asexual or aromantic? I froze. What? Wait, you know that? You know what those are? Well, I'd heard of them. And when you messaged me, I made the connection, and then I went and looked them up, and yeah, that sounded like what you were describing. He looked alarmed suddenly. Am I wrong? I'm so sorry if I got it wrong. No, you're right. I'm right out of breath. I am. Both of them. Arrow Ace. Arrow Ace, Jason repeated. Well, yeah. He slotted his hand into mine and we resumed walking. You didn't reply to my message, though, I pointed out. Well, I was really upset. He stared at the ground. And I couldn't really talk to you while I was still in love with you. There was a long pause. I had no idea what to say to that. Eventually he said, Do you know when I first realized I liked you? I looked up at him, not sure where this was going. When? When you clapped back at Mr. Cole that time during Les rehearsals? Clapped back? I couldn't remember a time when I clapped back at a teacher, let alone Mr. Cole, the authoritarian director of our school plays in the 6th form. I don't remember that, I said. Really? Jason chuckled. He was shouting at me because I told him I had to miss a rehearsal that afternoon to go to a dentist appointment, and you were there, and he turned to you and said, Georgia, you agree with me, right? Jason is Javert. He is a key role, and he should have scheduled his appointment for another time. And you know what Mr. Cole was like? And you know what Mr. Cole was like. Anyone who disagreed with him was officially his enemy. But you just looked him in the eyes and were like, well, it's too late to change it now, so there's no point in them shouting at Jason about it. And that just shut him up, and he stormed away to his office. I did remember this incident, but I didn't think I had been particularly forceful or bold. I just tried to stand up for my best friend who was clearly in the right. It just made me think. Georgia might be kind of quiet and shy, but she'd stand up to a scary teacher if one of her friends was being shouted at. That's the sort of person you are. It made me feel certain that you truly cared about me. And I guess that's when I started, falling for you. I still care about you that much, I said immediately, even though I didn't know what I'd said to Mr. Cole was particularly special or brave. I still wanted Jason to know that I cared about him exactly as much as he thought in that moment. I know, he said with a smile. That's partly why I needed some space away from you, to get over you. Did you get over me? I'm trying. It's gonna take time, but I'm trying. I subconsciously withdrew my hand from his. Was I making this worse for him just by being around him? He noticed this happen and there was a pause before he spoke again. When you told me why you dated me, I mean, obviously I was crushed, he continued. I felt like you just didn't care about me at all. But after I got your message, I think I started to realize that you've been so confused about stuff. You really thought we could be together because you do love me. Not in a romantic way, but just as strongly. You're still that person who stuck up for me to Mr. Cole. You're still my best friend. He glanced at me. You and me not being a couple doesn't change that at all. I haven't lost anything. Just because we're not dating. I listened, stumped, taking a moment to figure out what he meant. You're okay with just being friends? I asked. He smiled and took my hand again. Just friends makes it sound like being friends is worst. I think this is better personally, considering how terrible that kiss was. I squeezed his hand. I agree. We reached the end of the bridge, crossing back into a cobbled alleyway. Jason's face ducked in and out of the darkness as we passed the street lamps. When his face came into the light again, he was smiling, and I thought, possibly, I was forgiven. And that's the end of this half of part 4. Let me say right now, I think you can understand why I stopped it here. It's because now Georgia has gotten one of her friends back. The second half of part 4 will be revolving around her trying to get Pip back in her life. I will say for the record, it's not going to be as easy as it was with Jason. But it's going to happen one way or another. I think we all know that's going to be the case. But the question is, how will she do it? You'll just have to wait till tomorrow night for the second half of part 4. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, this is Forrest Walpole, signing off.